going to take the North and never give it back.
So that's a good pick. You get the corner.
Man, I'm confident in our offense, that's for sure.
Yeah, she's got some nice long hair.
Welcome back to the Unbearable Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Brad Barron. Make sure to like and subscribe out there on YouTube. And make sure to rate 5 stars everywhere that you get your podcast. We continue to raise money and donate a portion of what we make from the show over to NAMI, which helps support mental illness. So you want to make sure to let all your friends know. But PayPal, today we are breaking down the entire mini camp and breaking it down by position just to get the people what they need. Everything that you need to know about all the people on these different position groups. So, but first, PayPal, how are you doing, my friend?
Not too shabby, Brad. Now this is kind of controversial. I want to bring up something a little controversial. So I don't like Chick-fil-A sauce. I don't know if you do, Brad.
Yeah, I don't like it either.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm not just go with ranch, right?
Just go with ranch. Exactly. But I had Chick-fil-A nuggets the other day. I had some leftover, ate them at work, and place I work, they have some condiments. You know, they got the ketchup packets, they got mustard packets, and they got mayo packets. And so what I did, I was like, I need some sauce. So I poured out all one of the packets of mayo, one of the packets of ketchup, and one packet of the mustard, and mixed it up. I mixed all of them combined, and it was the best sauce I've ever had. It was so good. It was so good. I mean, if you think about it, most sauces have a base of mayo, and Chick-fil-A sauce has ketchup and mustard. It has all three of those ingredients into it. So
I don't know why that's controversial. The Chick-fil-A sauce, that could be controversial. That is the worst though. It's the thing not to get on. Just get ranch. Just go ranch, I feel.
Yeah.
I agree with you there, but no, nice. So you discovered a new sauce.
Yeah. If you don't, if you run in a pickle and you only got some sauce packets with you, just mix them all together and see how it goes.
There you go. So also too, for those that follow the show, we did not have a show on Sunday. We were recovering from a bachelor party that we both went to. My voice was shot, and it still is kind of coming back a little bit. But it was a good time. We went out to Madison, searched for Jack Sanborn, but unfortunately could not find Jack Sanborn anywhere on the Madison campus. But PayPal, we got to get started though, breaking down minicamp. Mandatory minicamp just ended today. We're recording this on Thursday the 15th. And now it's the long pause before training camp. But thought, let's break down all 3 days. And like I said before, we're going to break down every single positional group, starting with the quarterback position. So the quarterback position, for those that might have listened to some other shows, there were some mixed reviews from Justin Fields. If you remember at the end of OTAs, he didn't have the best end to his OTAs, and that continued onto the mini camp, where he didn't have a good first day, didn't really have a great second day, but today on Thursday, he just went off, and I wrote this down. He went 12 of 15. His 3 incompletions were Jaquan Brisker making an incredible play. Scott actually dropped a touchdown pass, and Brisker said, Brisker went up to him and went moment too big for you, or just freaking talks a little smack to him. And also Dante Pettis didn't turn his head around in time for a pass. So really 2 of them are excusable, but did well. But before that, a lot of mixed reviews with just how Fields was playing. It's not the end of the world. That's how practices are. But PayPal, what's your feeling? What do you feel about that?
Yeah, it's hard. It's still one of those things, you don't come up with excuses, but it's he's still not he's still not playing to win an actual game yet. He's not in the regular season, so it's sometimes, quote unquote, too early to judge. But you still like to see your quarterback kind of succeed in all these drills. There is progress. And honestly, most people, you're going to have your bad days. I bet Patrick Mahomes isn't perfect every single day. And honestly, the thing that I think of is a lot of these drills, sometimes they are kind of, all right, 2-minute drill. We got to score the ball and we're going to do whatever it takes to score the ball. And they're trying to beat the defense. But some of these plays, they are not called to quote unquote beat the defense. It's supposed to test the defense if they are, it's more testing the defense if they are reading the offensive plays rather than the offense beating the defense, if that makes sense. It's more the defensive drills, I guess. And some of those bad throws, bad interactions could be coming from those type of plays where they're trying new things or, trying to see if the defense is reacting a certain way.
And one thing too is in minicamp, the defense should be ahead of the offense. And something that I think about too, when you're in these plays, right? You have the defense just needs one person to step up. Well, the entire offense has to step up, right? If a wide receiver's not running his route properly, offensive line isn't blocking well, or like out of their position, bad snap, something like that, it's a bad play. And that's where the offense still needs time to gel. And the only thing though that I will say, right? Because we've talked about this before. I'm also going to defend the people like NBC Sports Chicago, ESPN, and CHGO, like all the Athletic, all the people that report about this, they're just reporting what they see. And I didn't realize that until we started covering the Bears, because whenever we're out on training camp and whatever I say is kind of the same that they say. So I trust them with what they do say. Just because he has a bad day doesn't mean he's going to suck. It just means that he had a bad day. Just like how if you play a pickup game with your friends, the crappy person could have a great day, right? Like that's just how life is. So for people that can't take that Justin Fields had a bad day, I don't know what to tell you. Like, I don't know what to say.
And I think people that think like, oh, then he's gonna have a bad day when he has a game. I think it's different. I mean, you have weeks separating, you have 7 days separating each game. These practices are every day, so you're gonna have the ups and downs are gonna be exaggerated in such a fine amount of time.
If someone's out there thinking that he's going to suck because of it, then that person's in the wrong. That person's an idiot. Like it's, he will have good days. He will have bad days. So that's just the way it is. The one thing though, that did make me a little bit nervous was hearing, I was listening to CHGO and a lot of the stuff they were talking about was that he was just slow with processing, on Tuesday and Wednesday. That's something that obviously we've talked ad nauseum about on the show that we're nervous about with Fields. It's not nice hearing that. So, but what's good is I think the big upside with him is it seems though when he is on, it's different rather than like, oh, he had a good day. It's like, no, the dude tore it up. The dude absolutely tore it up. So no matter what, I think that there's good, there's bad, but yeah, he's human. We're going to see how it goes into training camp. But I will say, though, that there's also a lot of reports that when he was throwing the football, the accuracy's there, the deep ball accuracy. Josh Chirac mentioned that there was a lot of like tight window throws that he was able to fit in to DJ Moore and also fit into like Dante Pettis. So the accuracy's on point. It's great to see, even though that it wasn't a great week. It's still nice to just know that he does have that next level stuff that we've seen. But it's nice to know that he's continuing that on.
Yeah, you're happy to see, especially when the defensive line isn't really playing as much of a factor, without the pads on. So you'd like to see, the wide receivers and the QBs and the defensive backs just in general all kind of step up around this time before the men up front get to have some fun.
Do you have anything else before we go into running backs?
No, not really. Besides, I'm still super excited for Justin Fields. I don't care, all the negatives. I believe in him,
Yeah, the one thing though that I'll say about Justin Fields is the last little bit. I thought that this was very interesting is when people saw him throwing, I forgot who called this out, but they said that he throws with conviction to DJ Moore. He trusts DJ Moore. But when he's throwing to Pettis, when he's throwing to others, it feels like he doesn't believe that they're going to be in the right spot. And that might be where some of his hitches, some of the slight delays in some of those routes. While they're like DJ Moore, he's like, I know where he's going to be. I'm going to throw it to him. So that might be it's a very interesting piece where it sounds like he looks like a different quarterback when he's throwing it to DJ Moore. They're like, there's an additional zip on the ball. He's just slinging it to him, while everyone else, not so much. So
Yeah.
it'll be cool to see what happens when when Darnell Mooney's back and Chase Claypool. But let's move on.
Oh, I guess one I saw one
You got
thing,
one
and
more?
honestly,
Okay.
yeah, I got one more thing, and actually Bears Bones brought up in the comments, and I think it's a good point to bring up, is how Justin Fields, he's going to France. He's going to go France tomorrow, I believe, to train to basically he's going with like Deshaun Watson and the worst quarterback in the league, Jordan Love. And they're gonna like basically show like US football to Europeans. I just think that's a really cool step for him of kind of improving his leadership and showing that he does have that. I mean, little kids, Brad. Sometimes it's hard to be leaders in front of kids because they, if you do anything wrong, they will,
They'll let you
point
know
it
about
out.
it.
So they're very testy, and if he can, he's been leading this entire team, and it's just cool that he's taking that next step and kind of, leading a group, a camp.
Yeah. So I didn't know about that, but we shall I think that's very good. So also Philip has a question. Where are the Bears going to get their pressure on quarterbacks? We'll keep that one for the defensive line because that's a good question.
That's a good question, Phil.
There's some people that have been kind of popping inside of minicamp. So we'll bring that up with the D line, but very, very good question. Let's go over to the running backs because speaking of pressure on the quarterbacks, there's not much to talk about from a running back perspective, except there was one headline that I thought was interesting. I think Matt Eberflus was asked about the running back position, and he said the number one thing that they're looking for is to protect the quarterback from the running backs, out of that. So I think that was a big, listening to Eberflus. Yes, he looks like a pastor. He looks like a nice pastor guy, but he's been doing some slight zings at some people to be like, I expect this. And I think to me, that might have been a little zing at Khalil. Like, if you want to be the starter, we know you can run the football. That's number two. That's what he said. Number two is running the football. Number one is protecting the quarterback. And I think that was out of all the running back stuff, you don't see much out of it. That to me was something that was very impactful, very powerful. That was said.
Yeah, and that kind of brings up to, well, I mean, Roshan Johnson, I think we just got from this whole entire mini camp of every coach on this team kind of has gone and said just out of their way to say like how excited they are to see when there's pads on. So I'm ready to hear headlines. I'm ready to hear all this stuff from him. And honestly, when he was in college, he was a great pass blocker. So like it's even more like kind of that fantasy. I don't know about you, Brett, but I'm like, oh, if Roshan was kind of like our number one back, like that would be kind of fun, but obviously Khalil is a great runner. So, and we have that great competition. So it's interesting to see who wins.
I feel you. I want Roshan to be third and then third down back. And it's like, sorry to Deonta Foreman, who is not a bad running back. It's just Khalil. I want to see what he does. And then, with Roshan, it's Roshan. So,
and quick, we don't need Dalvin Cook. I know people are saying that. There's some it was like Pro Football, Focus or something. They were saying like, oh yeah, it looks like they might go to the Bears. They had like Bears, Eagle or some other teams, and it was like, we already have 4 running backs.
What I find funny is like every Bear show knows we're not getting Dalvin Cook. And if we do, we're all going to be surprised. We'll be like, we got Dalvin Cook? What? And it's just because that they want to give these young guys a shot. Give Khalil a shot. He's a good person. He's a good running back. Reminds me of Nick Chubb when he has the ball in his hands, legit. And I think, though, that he does need to get his chance. So, but yeah, so let's get in to the wide receivers. Now, PayPal, there's one that I will bring up later on, but let's talk about the positives real quick. Okay, DJ Moore, we already know all the good stuff with DJ Moore going on, but also Tyler Scott is turning a lot of heads. Great diving catch the first day. And I believe I also heard too, PJ Walker, it might have been on the second day, threw a dime to him. Tyler Scott's getting open. Tyler Scott's making plays. Dropped a touchdown today, like I mentioned, but
Hey,
still, it's great to hear this about the rookie.
and honestly, it's kind of true what Briscoe was saying. Like, you kind of got to give out those rookie nerves. I mean, I saw it in Velus Jones last year. I mean, like he was dropping every and then he catches one, and then he's like, "Oh, I got it." And
Yeah.
then you kind of saw him turn it on. It was the same thing with Christian Watson as well last year. They kind of need to get their confidence and their footing of that first big play and kind of get out of the way. But honestly, Brad, something I'm surprised. I've been hearing a lot about Dante Pettis still. Like,
Yeah.
it's so weird that you still hear his name out. Like, and he's probably, I would say, the sixth receiver.
Yeah, it should
7th
be.
maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah, like that he's kinda in that list, but you still hear so much about him of, like, getting targets. He was kinda getting the majority of deep ball threats. I mean, when they were talking about deep ball, opportunities, it was like DJ Moore and, Pettis was the second name. It was like, "What?" Like, I
Yeah.
was I was shocked. I was like, "You thought you'd see, like, some of these other guys." I mean, they did say Mooney, but, like, you'd think you'd hear any other name besides Pettis, you know?
Yeah, well, that's the hard part too is Mooney, Claypool have been out with just lingering injuries, right? They've been,
Yeah.
nursing those. We did have a perfect attendance. Everybody was in the Bears facility. Um, but yeah, I agree. I did also wanna mention too, you mentioned Bayless. Bayless has made a couple plays. He made a
Yeah.
great play the first day on Jalen Johnson. So it's nice to see that he's not completely useless type of thing. Like he's not just the kick returner, not just the punt returner. He has some merit to him. But no, I agree with the Dante Pettis. It just seems like every time that you put on one of those videos, it always seems like Dante Pettis is like right next to Justin Fields
Yeah,
every
right.
time. And I've heard too that like in the locker room as well, Dante Pettis is usually around Justin Fields as well. Like they seem to have a friendship that no one is talking about. And yeah, it's cool to just kind of see that. But yeah, him as the sixth wide receiver, yes. Him as the
Mhm.
starting wide receiver, no. We can move on from that, right?
Mhm.
um, but I want to bring up something that I thought was very big, and that was about Chase Claypool. Because on this show, we talked about Chase Claypool. We talked about Justin Fields going crazy about Chase Claypool and saying how just praising him like crazy, like a good leader should. Then I believe this was yesterday on Waddle and Sylvie. That's an ESPN 1000 show that I listen to a lot. And Sylvie brought up, and the quote is, I have heard from a few people inside that building that he is not somebody who is very self motivated. There's a long way to go. Chase Claypool can change the narrative. And the more that he talked about it, the more that he was just saying that the expectation was that Chase Claypool should be in there and he had all this time to rehab his injuries. It seems like he didn't. He had all this time to learn the playbook. It seems like he didn't. This is coming from Sylvie, who I'm a fan of the show, and I know this with Sylvie, and he said this today actually too. He brought up that the only time that he breaks news is when he knows something. Like he brought up that Brandon Marshall and Jay Cutler don't like each other. And he's like, the reason why I knew that is because they kept telling me over and over and over again. He
Mm.
doesn't create rumors to create rumors. He's done this for a long time. He's not in the business of doing that. And that's why to me, I think that this does hold some water. It's just, what do you think about it, PayPal? If this were to be true, what's your take?
First of all, it sucks. Like, I think I've talked about it, like, on the show before of, like, he kinda completes the receiving core of, like, we got that number 1 kind of possessive, kind of just do it all receiver in DJ Moore. And we got Mooney, who's gonna be the fast, deep ball, quick receiver. And then you kinda need that, bigger receiver, kind of, taking the head off the defense type of just jump ball guy, you know?
Yeah.
And without him, it's like, is EQ gonna be that, you know? Um, which we definitely saw last year he's not going to be that. But I agree with you, Brad. Honestly, like I was optimistic about him, but it seems like it's kind of true. Like you think we'd be hearing more about him. You think we'd be hearing more about like, oh, like how great he's doing. See a press conference from him or something because he's a new player. You think you would see a little
Yeah.
bit more, but yeah, he's kind of nowhere to be seen as
That
of these past 2 weeks.
And yet again, this is a rumor, right? Like I trust the source from where it's coming from. Also, too, ESPN 1000 is the new home for the Bears, so they have a lot of connections. Waddle and Sylvie are always like in or like at Hallis Hall, and I'm just bringing it up because we need to report the news. And this is something though that my take on it is if this is the way that in the inside of the walls of Hallis Hall, if they are like this guy just ain't it, go after DeAndre Hopkins, right? Why not? Because otherwise we're going to have another year of going, what if he had another wide receiver, right? Like, what if he had a third wide receiver? What if one of the receivers goes down, right? Like, that's something that I just don't love hearing because you hope that he was something different. And yet again, it's not saying that he's bad. It's not saying that, like, it's just disheartening when you hear something like this because now it's prove it, right? Go out to training camp, full health, because Eberflus did say he's battling multiple injuries or multiple small injuries out there. So it's not the best, but I will say though, we have DJ Moore. And DJ Moore, it's awesome to hear just how Justin Fields is like, he's different. He's a professional. The way that they talk to each other, it's awesome to have that veteran that has done it, that has had success. So had to end it on a slight high note.
Hey,
but
another reason why it'd be
watching.
better to have Hopkins too. Another veteran that knows what he's doing, But yeah, we don't know yet. We don't know where this offense is going. We don't know his injuries. We don't know, after this break, kind of their summer break that they have, if he'll get everything right and actually come back and, maybe prove us wrong. We'll see.
And here's the big thing. Like the whole, what I said about them signing DeAndre Hopkins is purely based off if that's the way that it is inside the walls, right?
Exactly.
Like if they don't believe in him, do you know what Howie Roseman does at the Eagles? He moves on, right? That's what he did with Jalen Reagor. He's like, Jalen Reagor, all right, that was a bad pick. We're going to move on. And not saying outright cut him, but just be like, listen, man, this is just how it is. I'm going to take my losses, right? And let's move on and let's make this team better if that is the case at Hallis Hall. But let's move on to the tight end position. Hey, pal, I don't have much at the tight end spot. A couple things, but what do you have anything?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm not surprised, but Robert Tonyan seems like he's fitting right in. I mean, I don't know if you saw that Instagram video today. I think they were talking about it or maybe it's today, yesterday. But Robert Tonyan was asked in his interview yesterday, but a beautiful throw to Justin Fields in the red zone area, probably 10, 15 yards, and just absolutely dimes it right to Tonyan, like overreaching a defender. Tonyan one arm grabs it right in the corner of the end zone, and it was a perfect pass. And like that's one of those kind of trust throws we talk about, like he does with like DJ Moore. We kind of saw it with Komet last year. He started doing them a lot more of like, I'm going to put it in the only spot that you can get the catch. And I'm trusting you to get up and get it, And like he trusted Tonyan in what a matter of weeks, and throwing it to him like that just really shows kind of Justin Fields believes in Tonyan, and like it's going to be a fun like 2 tight end set with Komet and Tonyan.
I also loved hearing Komet talk about Tonyan.
Yeah.
He was just like saying, he's like, we're like very similar personality wise. Like and they just seem like good friends. They seem cool. And I love the idea though, of just like you said, Tonyan in the red zone. Love that idea. Right. And then because we needed a tight end that knew how to do that spacing. So it's nice to hear the reason why we got him is what he's doing very well for this team. So excellent to see out there. Komet, I heard a couple times, made some really good routes. And this is on the first 2 days where they did say it's like he should have thrown it to Komet, but he didn't, right? He didn't make the proper read. He didn't throw it to the right guy. But yeah, there was a lot of, or not proper read, like we don't know the reads, but there was people open and one of them was Cole Komet. So it's nice to hear the dude's getting open, big contract season. But anything else? I mean,
it feels good to be confident in our tight ends right now because last year we were not.
no Tonjes love out here. But let's go to the offensive line. So the offensive line, PayPal, one of the storylines, Whitehair and Patrick, they're getting some snaps. We talked about this last time. I still don't think it's a competition. Do you think otherwise, or
No, yeah, I think Whitehair's kind of got it. Like, why would they, after Lucas Patrick, I don't think he did terrible last year when he was center, but with Whitehair's experience, kind of they've shown that he just brings this culture to this team. And like, I think him just being on the field, even if, Lucas Patrick and them are the same level, like he just is better and by just like being out on the field, having a center that will actually snap him the ball, like Justin Fields the ball like correctly. We had that so many times last year where that didn't work out, but I think it's kind of easy Whitehair gets it.
yeah, I agree. Whitehair, it should be his job to lose. But I will say though too about Lucas Patrick, I was hearing that they're like he's still a vocal leader in the locker room. He's still a vocal person, and you can tell that even though he's probably not going to be the starter, he still wants to be like the backup, the sixth man on the offensive line, the guy that holds down the interior. So Ja'Tyre Carter doesn't go on the field. It's Lucas Patrick instead. You can tell he wants to be the guy, which is great to hear. But there is one person that, speaking of the sixth man on the offensive line, I heard a little bit about Larry Borum.
Yeah.
And have you, or did you hear this? But basically, Eberflus, a little thing that he said, one of those little Eberflus jabs, was just saying that it just seemed like he needed to be leaner. He needed to lose a little bit more weight and hit the weight room. That's something that they wanted him to do. And yeah, like it's one of those things. I have nothing terrible to say about Larry Borum, nothing bad as a backup offensive lineman, but the coaching staff wants him to lose some weight. And whatever it is, it doesn't seem like it's working.
Yeah. And yeah, that was kind of his big thing last year. You could tell it was kind of his weight, his strength. But yeah, honestly, and too, Tevin Jenkins, he was asked a lot about kind of, how does it feel to be kind of a guard? I know last year he kind of talked about how he feels, he was playing guard, but he's like, I still feel like a tackle. Seems like he's finally accepting that he's a guard. Still willing to play tackle if he needs to, type of thing, but he finally feels like this is his position. I mean, that guy just I think I'm high on him more than anyone else. Like, I just think he's going to do great. Like, I haven't heard too many things about him actually blocking because you really don't know till pads come on. But I know he was saying, I'll say it later. He talked about the defensive line, and I'll save it for later. But he had some compliments to the guys on the defensive line.
Sounds good. What's going on, Triple R's in the comments? And so also Jay Ski with the question, what's up with Alex Leatherwood? That is the question of, you could ask that too with what's up with him, with like the him being added in. Overall, with Alex Leatherwood, what I'll say about it is it sounds like he's going to be a guard. Unless Larry Borum does piss off a lot of people, it sounds like he's really going to be that guard. I also heard that it's like third string tackle potentially, that Leatherwood he just ain't it.
We just have him because we can't cut him.
I think that's going to be the most interesting piece, because if we do cut him, it's all guaranteed. His entire contract's guaranteed. So, it just doesn't seem good with Alex Leatherwood, but it seems like they're at least just trying to keep him at guard. So that's where you got to hope that Larry Borum is is shedding some of that weight like the coaching staff wants, So you say, Borum, you're the swing tackle, and Leatherwood will keep you on the team for another year, but Ja'Tyre Carter and Lucas Patrick are ahead of him. So it
Mhm.
doesn't seem, if he makes the team, it's going to be more of a contract reason, more so than anything else. But it doesn't look good for Leatherwood right now. But I will bring up this because I think this is a good transition. The only thing that I heard from Darnell Wright was he got cooked by Terrell Lewis, the defensive end. I think one person said he got cooked twice on the first day. Another person said only once. But that's the only that's where like no pads are on. They're not pushing people. They're not like you're not going to be blown away by offensive linemen and running backs, right?
Yeah.
It's a very difficult thing to know until the pads are on. But let's go over to the defensive line, shall we? So now we can answer your question, Philip, from the beginning. Where are the Bears going to get their pressure on the quarterbacks? There was one dude that had 2 sacks the first day. Actually, PayPal, I'll let you go first. It might be the
Yeah.
same guy.
No, yeah, I guess I'll follow up kind of with like what I was saying before of like, Tevin Jenkins was kind of talking about 2 guys of just like how their hands look just amazing. It was the 2 rookies. He was talking about Dexter and Pickens of like how great they were, just how quick their hands were and just like kind of their burst. I think we've been hearing that all training camp of like how do these 6'5" guys run like they're horses. Like they just have such a quick get off. And honestly, for me, it's great to hear that Dexter has great hands. I think we kind of
Yeah.
knew that Pickens did, but with Dexter, I was kind of unsure if he really had those quicker hands. But awesome to hear from that. And just I'm excited to see just how I'm so excited for preseason to watch all these guys.
Yeah, exactly. And like there's no pads on, right? Like we do have to add that caveat. But like I said this, right? I was critical of Javon Dexter. Now it's not saying he's going to be a great player all of a sudden, but it's nice to hear that because that's something I didn't see on tape. And then
Yeah.
our friend Kenneth Davis from the Under Center podcast, he interviewed the co-defensive coordinator from the Florida Gators. And it was cool to hear him say, like, Javon was asked to read and react. So what he would do is when they'd snap the ball, he waited for the offensive lineman to move, which I'm like, that makes more sense
Makes sense.
because literally in my notes, I'm like, literally he waits until everybody else moves except for him. So is that a really good excuse? And he's got good burst? Because so far it sounds like he's got better burst than what he put on tape at Florida, which is awesome to hear. And also you just hear like just huge mammoth of a guy. And we said this last time, the score that I think I mentioned this last time, but Ryan Poles mentioned this, that he can add a lot more weight. And I think, and that co-defensive coordinator at Florida mentioned that he sees him as like a Leonard Williams, as a Dexter Lawrence, not the 3 techniques, but like the 2, the 1 where it's the bigger
nose
guy
tackle.
that just freaking wrecks havoc. And although with all this stuff, PayPal, I don't think this changes the starting lineup or the quote unquote starting lineup. I still am a believer that what we're going to see is the hockey lines. We're going to see the line number 1 and line number 2. Line number 1 being Andrew Billings and Justin Jones, and then line number 2 being the rookies. They have the camaraderie. They have multi-year deals, and I think that that's what they're going to do so that your future is intact between these 2 guys, because that's what they did last year.
I completely agree, Brad. And isn't that so beautiful? Like to see the rookies come out together and like
Yeah.
just be this awesome dynamic duo. That's like all we wish for. And honestly, we talked about it before of like it would be so cool. Like, we were thinking like it'd be a hit or miss. Like, okay, we got 2 defensive tackles. One's gonna be hit, one's gonna be miss. But it's getting closer to be like they're kind of both. They kind of sound like both hits right now, but we still got it. We can't jinx it.
I like our defense straight up the middle, right? We got our linebackers. We have good safeties, which we'll talk about. There's some really good safety stuff to cover. But the D tackles also, Billings, they're like big guy. Like, right? Everybody loves the rookies, but you have Billings, who's a very big guy, very good middle guy that we need to have. And then also, before we get into Justin Jones's comments, we have to bring up Bell. Bell actually made a play and broke into the backfield and hit Travis Homer and blew up a play with some quick feet. Now, 7th rounder, we're not expecting anything, but it's nice to know that he's at least making some big plays. But the biggest play was made by Justin Jones, where he talked about the Green Bay Packer fans not knowing anything. We all know it, but man, that was too good.
Yeah, he's spot on. I think he wanted to say more. I think it's hard. It's hard when I think he understands us. I think he understands us, Brad, of like there's not like a specific reason you can be like, this is why Packers fans suck. But he was trying to explain why they do. And they just do, they just don't know anything what they're talking about. They just kind of are so reactive and they just kind of say whatever they want. I don't want to say they're privileged. That's such like a Gen Z word, but they're privileged with, 30 years of Hall of Fame quarterbacks. So it's like, you don't know football. You just know, you've been living in this golden age of all these amazing quarterbacks.
Well, we all know it, right? Like anytime that the Packers lose a game, they're like, we got to get rid of Aaron Rodgers and we got to get rid of LaFleur. And we got to get rid of, and it's like, no, you guys don't know what it's like to not have a good quarterback, not have a Hall of Fame quarterback. Like I've said this before, I'm as old as like I was born when Brett Favre was a rookie for the Packers in 92. And so my entire life has been Hall of Fame quarterbacks, yours for sure. And it's so, yeah, we'll see what ends up going on. But other people too that I want to bring up, DeMarcus Walker has been an absolute vocal leader at the defensive line. People are saying just it's different. And something that I thought was really cool too, Justin Jones mentioned that there was people last year that were just trying to get the bag. And downside of all these 1-year deals that they had was it was just people that wanted to get that next contract and people not buying into the scheme and buying into the vibe. Javon Dexter, they were saying, was sprinting after Justin Fields, even though he knew he could not get Justin Fields. Like, it's people buying into the hits principle and buying into what the Bears have to sell. So it's great to hear, but Walker's also been playing inside and outside. So they're still trying to figure out I think he's just going to be versatile.
Yeah. Sadly, I mean, we haven't really heard too much about the edge defenders. At least I haven't, of like the success they're bringing. But still, again, that's kind of like you don't know. You're not going to be hearing much about. It's like how the running backs are. Yeah, you're just not going to hear much about them till they put the pads on. But still, Brad, I think this is proving why Justin Jones, we brought him to this team. Like, he is the vocal leader of the team. Like he's kind of the center, I think, even more than like Tremaine Edmonds, of like bringing this whole defense and understanding how hard they need to work and how tough it is going to be to win these football games. Like he's shown it in his interviews, just on the field. And like, I'm excited. I think he's going to blow up this year, but that's enough for Justin Jones for today.
Well, one other thing about Justin Jones is Eberflus also, when asked who the 3 technique is, Alan Williams quickly just was like, it's Justin Jones. So like without a question, but I'll say too, seeing this puts the defensive end into perspective where you kind of think about what should the Bears do at defensive end. Terrell Lewis, yes, he beat Darnell Wright. He's not it, right? And now Yannick Ngakoue just got Drew Rosenhaus, one of the Rosenhauses. That said, we need multiple years, right? They want 3 years at that defensive end, or like to join the next team. They're tired of 1 year. They're tired of moving around the family. Is that something that the Bears actually want to commit to for someone like that, right? And maybe does he take less money to have a multi-year deal so he doesn't have to move his family? It's stuff to think about. And even like I think about a Danielle Hunter, if you get someone who is seen as better and seen as a more well-rounded player, is it worth it? because now you have, honestly, this defense could be good since it looks so far like the defensive tackles are coming around. And then we'll talk about the other positions. But Bears Bones, Terrell Smith. So Terrell Smith, the corner, haven't heard much. Terrell Lewis, the D end, he did, like I mentioned, go around the Darnell Wright a couple of times. But let's move over to linebackers. Now, anything you got? I only have like small little bits on the linebackers.
Really not too much like recently with the linebackers. Surprised to not hear too much about TJ Edwards, honestly, this entire kind of
Yeah,
camp,
that's right.
I guess he's not too like flashy of a player. I mean, he is, but like maybe that's why. I mean, yeah, I don't know what you heard too much. Like it's really not too much breakout news.
I think too, linebackers aren't really like, it's similar to running backs. They're not going to be the sexy position. It's just more people talking about Tremaine Edmonds being just gigantic,
Huge.
right?
Yeah.
Like they said, Cole Kmet mentioned where there was a moment where because he's so big, Justin had to throw the ball differently when normally it's just a normal linebacker, you just lead him. While with that, he had to put it on like an outside shoulder to just get it around the guy. But the
Mhm.
only other thing that I'll bring up is Sewell is actually looking really good. He's been seeing reps at the first team Sam linebacker role because Jack Sanborn is still not out there. But when asked about it, either Alan Williams or Matt Eberflus was like, no, Sanborn is the guy. But Noah Sewell is in front. It's seemingly going to be in front of Cole. So Dylan Cole, and I'm more than happy with that. Sewell dropped an interception. Also, I thought that I had another thing too. But yeah, they're just saying like Sewell is looking solid. He's got better athleticism than Cole. So it's nice to know that this guy who was supposed to be a first round linebacker last year that we got in the late rounds is putting in some work and looking good. So I hope it's not Sanborn. Like, I don't think he's going to take Sanborn's job. I don't want him to take Sanborn's job. But I think that overall, it's nice that obviously you want the most good players on your team as possible. But
Mhm.
let's go to corner. PayPal, do you have any takeaways from the corner position? There's one big one that I have.
Yeah, I think it was interesting how Justin Fields kind of called out Tyree Stevenson in a way, not like in a good way of he was kind of talking about players that it was actually he talked about the throw to Tunyon. He's like, yeah, there's these some of the players I have to watch out for. And he's like, one of the guys he mentioned was Tyree Stevenson. He's like, you guys now know how he is. Like, he's just gonna intercept the ball if I throw an out route, like, which is like cool to be like, first of all, Justin Fields seems like he's reading a lot when he talks about plays. He really shows that sorry, it's not the
Yeah.
Justin Fields time, but he talks like he's like reading the defense like really well. But then he called out Tyreek Stevenson of like, yeah, like this guy is a baller, and I think that's just further solidifying what we know about how good he's been doing in camp.
Yeah, I just keep hearing more and more about Stevenson, and
Mhm.
it's great. Mark Carman was talking about this and just was like getting amped up, and he's like, "Oh, he's going to have the biggest impact," and then he kind of walked it back, and he's like, "Okay, because maybe Darnell Wright will have the biggest impact," but it's great because people are saying they're like, Stevenson's looking really good. He's able to mirror up, and he's just got the mentality that you want in that number one corner. So I mean, and this is where too, when you look at this defense, I, I'm excited to see this defense, and I was scared about it. That's where if we can add if we add a defensive end or two, right? Good defensive ends, assuming that the defensive tackles are playing well so far, we're hearing good things. Linebackers, as Ron said, best linebackers in the league. If the
Mhm.
young cornerbacks are looking good, like haven't heard much about Kyler Gordon, which kind of stinks. But hey, I'll take Stevenson doing well and hearing about that and the safeties, which we'll go into. This defense could be pretty good. But let's go into the safeties because PayPal, I love this just because Eddie Jackson looked fast, but Brisker like Brisker could be the breakout star of this team, and no one's really talking about that. Like, he's big, he's making plays like he did last year. It's just going to be awesome. I can't wait to see these safeties.
Yeah, because I mean, his only problem last year was staying on the field a little bit, and then
Yeah.
his consistency. I mean, yeah, we've been seeing the big plays, and I think he's talked about it. And Eddie Jackson, they've kind of created this pair, and Eddie Jackson's also been so fun to watch. Like, it sounds like he's fully healthy. He's looking quicker, even as quicker. I don't even know how old he is anymore. I mean, he's probably 30.
Probably 30, yeah.
Yeah, 30, but still, it's awesome to hear he's not declining in his speed. This is kind of the time when it seems like you kind of hear how these safeties might be slowing down or may not be playing as up to their standard, but he still seems like he's kind of in his prime, so to speak.
Yeah, I love seeing it. And he also talked about Justin Fields, and I know it's not, or actually, no, not Justin Fields, the defense. The energy is he said, the energy is just so intense out there. When you get a bunch of guys like that, you're going to create something special. The type of guys we have in the locker room, real leaders, guys who really care about football. And it seems like they're putting what the hits principle is together. And it's just, this is where it's fun. It's exciting. We're going to break it down on this show. We're going to break down all the position groups now. Like, I forgot last week that minicamp was this week, but we are now going to be breaking down each position group for the Bears and talk about, did they get better? Did they get worse? So you're going to want to make sure that you subscribe, like the show, because it's going to be a long time, but we're going to make it fly through this. But PayPal, it's exciting to be a Bears fan. And with that, Unbearable Sports Podcast, we are out.
Yeah.